This is a continuation of the street fair that I visited so that I could approach some of the booths, especially the political booths, and ask people questions about what they thought were good policies and who they thought were good candidates. Well, the first thing that you're going to see is my second visit to the Democrat booth. I didn't record the first part, and I should have, because they were very mean-spirited and very, very cold from the get-go. I don't know if it was because of the IRS shirt that I was wearing, but something triggered them, and it wasn't because I asked them any questions at first. They just, from the get-go, I walked up and they were just cold, like glazed over, almost like zombies. Okay, I don't want to say that. I want to reserve that word for something that is truly zombie-like, but it was similar to talking to zombies. They weren't personable, they weren't friendly, they were extremely cold, and like I said, extremely mean-spirited. So here is what I encountered at the Democrat table. Okay, I've come back for some Democratic answers. Is your supervisor here?
We don't have a supervisor.
Oh.
It's kind of ridiculous.
Campaign manager, or I was hoping to get some
Party chairman, but we don't.
party chairman. That's it. Anybody want to give any comments on the value of?
Talk to you.
Oh, how come?
We just don't want to.
What do you feel like are the key points in the presidential race this year that you would like to see brought out? I mean, if you were going to talk to 500,000 people and tell them what the keys to liberty were, what would you say? Anybody? How come the Republicans talk to me but the Democrats won't? I don't understand. The Republicans are real friendly. You guys haven't been friendly to me at all. What's the issue? Please don't tell me YouTube is right. The Democrats are uppity and they don't want to talk to anybody. How come you guys are ignoring me? The American public wants to.
We're busy. We're busy, and we've had a long week.
I can help you while we're talking.
That's right. Thank you.
What's the value of being a Democrat? Are there no answers coming out of the Democratic Party?
There are no answers for you.
How come?
There just are no answers for you.
Well, if you guys are about freedom and liberty, I'd just like to hear about it.
I would like the freedom to take my booth down in peace. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm not in your way, am I?
No, your microphone is.
How is my microphone here? I'll stand up here.
You keep sticking it in
How
my
come
face.
how come you guys don't have any answers for policy issues, but
We don't have any answers for you.
why not?
Yeah.
So you guys are discriminating. Are you guys discriminating?
Like me to call one of my coworkers and
Nobody told me to walk away.
okay, well, walk away.
Okay. That's what's wrong. That's what's wrong with the Democratic Party.
Excuse me, come here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you something.
Oh, you want me to come over there? I thought you told me to go away.
Oh, I did, but looky, I'm just trying to register to vote.
Okay. Did you see how the
I-
Democrats
I'm
just taught me?
not-
They,
I
you-
saw you approach them and harass
you-
them.
I'm just asking questions. Why do you want
I
to?
asked you a question.
why
Did
do
you call one of my coworkers and asked you to go, or did you go on your own?
Well, you-
are bothering me.
You just told me to come back.
And yeah, you may leave.
Oh, so you wanted me to come back, but now you want me to
Tell
leave?
you.
Now, in stark contrast to the Democrats, when I walked up to the Republican table, and you guys know me, I'm not a partisan, not Republican, not Democrat. I was just going to ask questions and get answers. I wanted to find out what candidates they liked, and I wanted to find out what policies they thought were important. When I walked up to the Republican table, they were warm, they were having a good time, they were smiling, they were very, very cordial. We had a good time, good exchange, good interaction, and of course, I gave them softball questions and I kind of eased in slowly, but I just wanted to plant a couple of seeds of truth and knowledge and just kind of let that simmer, because you know, when you put truth into somebody, you just have to step back sometimes and let the chips fall where they may and see what happens. So here is my visit to the Republican table. See if you guys can see a difference. Okay, what are you guys all about?
We're all about conservatism and supporting our president and not doing socialism.
Okay, and you were saying something about a bill that was trying to be passed through Congress where a person can be criminalized for example, if a husband had his Glock in the glove box of his car and his wife borrows his car to go out grocery shopping and somebody finds it, she can literally be criminalized for that. Can you expand on that a little bit?
I'm not sure exactly, but it's called transfer, and so a temporary transfer, and that's illegal. And the bill initially is to prevent someone from borrowing a gun and going shooting up the school. You know, that's temporary transfer. But what it really allows is that anybody, like our Congressman Mark Wayne Mullen, he was telling us today that if his wife borrowed his pickup and he has his Glock in there and goes to town, then that's called a temporary transfer. And so therefore, he would be held responsible because he had the gun. He's the owner of the gun. And he could go to jail for like 10 years and be fined $30,000. If he had his friends out shooting, you know, they like to shoot their guns, you know, out there because he lives out on a ranch, and he lets someone shoot his gun, that's the same crime. It's considered a crime now, if that bill passes Congress.
Now, is that a House bill or is
It's a House bill.
okay? And do you happen to know the number on it or who's trying to push it?
Pelosi.
Oh, Pelosi's trying to push
It's
it.
one of hers. She has about 15 bills that she can introduce.
And the name of it is fairly deceptive with how it's titled.
As all bills are, and we were just talking about like the Affordable Care Act. Nothing has been more unaffordable, or the Patriot Act. Nothing was more unpatriotic. So I assume that they're doing this to keep the public safe, but usually what it ends up doing is criminalizing everyday average citizens.
One of the main things we're concerned about is
A background check.
teaching people what socialism means and how it would affect our lives, since there's so much socialism being promoted in Congress.
What is it? Because a lot of people do not know that distinction. You got the word background check? We'll just touch on that and we'll finish.
It's being pushed because they call it the background check, okay?
Right.
And everybody wants the background check because we don't want idiots out there with guns. And that's how they're trying to get it through. But like Congressman Mullen said, the devil is in the details.
Let me give you guys something to think about just a little bit on the background check, because we know the Second Amendment says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, and the last four words, shall not be infringed. Don't you guys see the background check, any level of background check, as a level of infringement? For example, to carry this firearm in the state of Oklahoma, I have to have a background check, and then I have to have a license. But aren't those hurdles to my freedom to just have a right to keep and bear arms, don't you think?
Well, things have changed. You know, I'm old enough to remember when you didn't need any kind of a
Yeah.
check or anything.
And how were things back then?
Well, it wasn't any
Better-
different.
There weren't school shootings.
I mean,
Better than they are
yeah,
now.
exactly. Now we have more regulations.
a lot of rednecks went around with their rifles in the back of their pickup, you know, on the cab right there.
Yep.
They
When I
mounted
was in
them
high
up,
school, that's how it was.
drove them to school that way. We
Yeah.
didn't have any school shootings.
Yeah, exactly. And isn't it ironic? So I'm just trying to give you guys something to think about. Any level of background check, because actually we have to put our faith in government to actually give us a background check, and then they say we're approved. Who are they to say we're approved, or we're oh yeah, you're okay to have a gun, but you're not okay. You can have one, but you can't have one.
That's what socialism, communism does.
Exactly.
Government control.
And what was it Vladimir Lenin said? He said the first step to communism is socialism. So socialism leads to communism, which is nothing more than anti-freedom. Period. If it's not freedom, then it is socialism, or it's communism, or some other ism.
And all the transparency people who are for everything being transparent, everyone having a free choice, they have their free choice, but they're imposing their will upon we the people.
Exactly.
We the taxpayers. We the one who obey the law.
Yeah. And here's something else to think about. When you have a Bernie Sanders or an Elizabeth Warren pushing gun control, to me, gun control is nothing more than a euphemism, which is really people control. And so if you ask Bernie, okay, how are you, Bernie Sanders, going to enforce gun control on me? At the barrel of a gun. Isn't that ironic? Because if I don't obey the socialist agenda of anti-guns and gun control, then they're going to come at me with what they would call gun violence. They're going to use gun violence against me so that I can obey their laws. And that's the idiocy of socialism.
We need to teach,
Amen.
we need to teach people what socialism actually means. The schools don't teach it anymore.
Exactly. You define socialism for 500,000 people.
I don't know that they know it. You mean want me to do it?
Yeah. Just your understanding of it. And I'm not talking about the textbook definition, just your understanding of it.
It's government control of things that affect everyday people that we can't decide for ourselves.
Right.
And government increasing the cost of taxes, because if they control things, they have to pay for them for us. I hadn't thought about a definition, so you just have to excuse me.
No, that's fine.
Today, Congressman Mullen, when he spoke over at Muskogee, he gave us this example. A republic, such as this America, is where the people control the government. Absolutely. It's the people. We elect and we control. Whereas socialism is when the government controls the people.
Thank you, Judy. You said it better than me.
How long has it been, do you think, in your estimation, in America, since people have controlled the government? When did we lose that control? Do you feel like we have lost that control? And if so, when did we lose it?
The Depression.
And by what means did we lose it?
Well, people didn't have jobs, and the government provided things, and they controlled things for us.
Under FDR, you're talking about?
FDR, yeah.
The New Deal. The
Right,
New
right,
Deal.
right.
So they could, the WPA came in where they could go to work camps and
Right.
People
build
didn't have
things.
jobs.
Right.
The New Deal, the bad deal. It was a bad deal.
But you got to consider the times. At that time, people were starving to death, and they needed those jobs.
Right.
And that's why they absolutely, all those people worshipped Franklin Delano Roosevelt, because he saved them. They were hungry. But the problem was, then we had socialism, essentially.
But have you ever heard of the Hegelian dialectic? Hegelian dialectic, it's problem, reaction, solution. The government creates a problem, waits for the fear-based public reaction, and then steps in to provide solution that they already had pre-planned in the first place.
They do.
Yeah, exactly. And so what FDR was operating under, because keep in mind, the Federal Reserve came online in 1913. So he was operating in the auspices of a counterfeit fiat currency Ponzi scheme known as the Federal Reserve dollar. So anything after that, in my estimation, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys have probably way more knowledge on this than me, but in my estimation, we lost our freedom when we lost the value of the dollar, because no longer was it pinned to gold and silver as of 1971 when they closed the gold window. Now it's just pinned on, that's $1, just take my word for it.
Yeah.
Did you guys want to say anything about that?
Kind of like fake money, right?
Absolutely, it's literally counterfeit currency, and if you tried to make counterfeit currency, we'd be put in a federal prison somewhere.
I think we need for people to understand, because we've heard so much about kids from 20 to maybe 40, 45 or something. They don't understand socialism.
You millennials.
So they need to understand what that is and how it puts you in bondage. When our country is free, it was capitalism. If you have a business and you can't make a profit, then you're not in business.
No.
And it doesn't take too much mentality, but they can't seem to understand it. They want we're going to get everything free and given to us. Somebody has to pay for it. And remember, freedom is never free.
That's right. Somebody's got to pay for it. That's right. Do you guys want?
A lot of people have paid the price with their lives for this country, for them to run around and say and do what they do and want everything free, and then the people that died to make this country free.
Right. I personally think the country is suffering from a massive case of cognitive dissonance. I mean, we're coming off of Obama. He could do no wrong to a lot of people, you know. AOC can do no wrong to AOC followers. Elizabeth Warren, believe it or not, and Bernie Sanders can do no wrong to Bernie Sanders followers. So there's this cognitive dissonance. And I think what the problem is that we need to stand on principle. If somebody goes against that principle, like the Second Amendment, shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. Not your guns, these are my guns. Those aren't your guns, they're her guns. She should be able to keep those.
We don't enforce the laws anymore that we've got on record. They let people get away with everything. And we were raised, a law was a law, and you went by it or you were punished. Nowadays, that's gone out the window.
What do you guys think about laws that conflict with the basic Bill of Rights? Do you think they should stand? Because there's a lot of laws. Do you feel like we'd be better as a country if we just had the Bill of Rights, those first 10 amendments? Do you think we'd be better off if we just reset back to that?
If they were enforced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, actually, those laws aren't really enforceable. They're just, like, for example, the First Amendment is you have the right to say whatever you want to say, the right to freedom of religion, and nobody has a right to take that away from you. So it's kind of a negative, you know what I mean? It's not like somebody's going to come up here and force you to have that right. It's you inherently have that right as a human
Unless
being.
you have a different ideology.
Yeah, but see, that's what I like about the first 10 amendments is like it says what it says. And I don't care if a Supreme Court judge says, no, you can infringe on this and you can infringe on it. Says shall not be infringed. So what would you say about a politician who came along and said, we should take the guns first and then give them due process second, but let's just take the guns first. What do you think about that? And then you guess which politician said that? Nancy Pelosi.
Sign the law and read it later.
And Diane Frankenstein says that as well. Oh, I'm sorry, Diane Feinstein. Sorry, I call them Diane Frankenstein and Nazi Pelosi. So you got to call them what they are. So no, yeah, Diane Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi is against that. Because remember, Diane Feinstein said back in the 90s, she said, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in. She wanted all the guns turned in from Americans.
If I could have gotten 51 votes in the Senate of the United States for an outright ban, picking up every one of them, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in, I would have done it. I could not do that. The votes weren't here.
Protection every day wherever they go. I mean, you know.
Excellent point. They are surrounded every day by armed security, and they want to take our guns.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
So guess which politician said that? Take the guns first, due process second. And are you against that? Are you against that idea? Because that's against a politician saying, let's take the guns first and just give them due process later.
Sure, we're against it.
Totally on its head. Guess who said that? Bernie?
Speak up.
Take a stab. Who said it?
Obama, probably.
Obama? No, not Obama.
I didn't hear the question.
Who's the politician that said, I like take the guns first, due process second?
Was that Bernie?
Nope.
Oh, who was it?
Hey, John McCain, I'm just guessing. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Actually, John McCain would say that, but he didn't.
Okay.
I'll give you a hint.
Did he say that?
Sitting right next to Diane Feinstein, he said, take the guns first. This was after he was sitting around the conference table and they were trying to figure out what to do after Parkland.
In the position
Or
of that
might
individual.
take the firearms first and then go to court.
What you talking about, Willie?
Because that's another system, because a lot of times by the time you go to court, it takes so long to go to court. I like taking the guns early, like in this crazy man's case.
What the hell did you just say?
To go to court would have taken a long time. So you could do exactly what you're saying, but take the guns first, go through due process second.
What the hell is wrong with you people?
Well, we got a right here.
Yeah, if you want me to, if you want to give me an email address, I'll send you the clip. I'll send you a clip.
That's all right.
But no matter who said it, and see that's what I don't like so much about partisan politics, because it leads people away from principle. Because the principle should stand against take the guns first, and you know what I mean. And I wasn't trying to pigeonhole you guys on that, but I think there's a cognitive dissonance in us all that needs to be broken. Because we'll tend to put our card down for the cult of personality, you know, and we'll follow a man no matter what he says, and then just kind of turn a blind eye to those things that we don't really like. But we really got to stand on principle in this day and age.
Speak out and say something before we've really thought about it a little bit.
That's a good point too. Yeah, that's a good point.
Thinking helps.
Yeah.
For you.
We have to be honest with ourselves. Status are status, and it doesn't matter if you're status left or status right, Republicans or Democrats. You believe in the initiation of unjust force on peaceful people who haven't done anything wrong. Now, in my experience, Republicans seem like they're happier, they're more outgoing, they're more joyful, they're more willing to engage in conversation and have a civil dialogue and civil discourse with you. Whereas, and I know people call them libtards, you know, and I can't argue with that. I try not to do that, but I can see why people do that. Because when you talk to the Democrats, they don't have answers. A lot of times they're not cordial. They're really quick to speak and slow to listen. Civil dialogue, for the most part, forget about it. Why is that? I mean, you have to admit, they're both statists. They both believe in the initiation of unjust force, but there is a difference. If you're just honest with yourself, talk to a group of Republicans or a group of Democrats. It wasn't just at this fair that I was at. I encountered this often in my life. There's a darkness, there's a shadow, there's storm clouds over the Democrats for some reason. Whereas on the Republican side, it's more, they're more set, they're more morally minded. They're more apt to treat you as a neighbor and welcome you and be warm and friendly and cordial and all those good things that we associate with good characters. When I hear people say that liberalism is a mental disease, statism is a mental disease, but the most malignant cancer, I think, on the spectrum of left versus right, the most malignant cancer is on the left, in my experience. Leave your thoughts about this for the world, the Google Thought Police, in the comment section below. Let me know what your experience is. I mean, who's more out to lunch on the statist spectrum, the conservatives or the liberals? Leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll see you guys in the next heavily censored shadow banned video. If you enjoy these videos, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon, give it a thumbs up, and share it with everybody you know.